Greetings sailors and welcome back to a World of Warships replay in a completely sealed clubby ship, so OP, it's the Emerald. I can't really tell you why I was playing this, I just had a random mad urge. I suppose I do go back and play this at tier 5 occasionally, although I'm more likely to pick something like the Murmansk or the Königsberg. But yeah, Emerald is nothing if not a challenge. It's certainly, I mean, all the tier 5 cruisers are a challenge, but I think Emerald probably represents the biggest challenge because it has rather a lot of downsides. For those that aren't aware, unlike all of the other tier 5 light cruisers and like the British light cruisers generally, it's a big pile of squish. It's not super fast, although the real life cruiser was actually pretty fast for its day. The firepower is incredibly underwhelming. It's got these single-firing AP-only guns, and the shells are actually less good than you find from tier 6 and up, and it's not like it has super-duper laser, sort of Yubari-style accuracy to make up for it. It also doesn't have an amazing rate of fire, particularly, and really the only particular upsides are the British cruiser acceleration, the fact that it's got the heel, smoke, and actually surprisingly decent broadside of torpedoes, although they are only 7 kilometers in range, so you have to be fairly close to actually use them. It is possible, difficult but possible, to set up a smoke ambush, or maybe ambush behind an island, but you know, smoke is obviously a fairly big giveaway that you or something is there, so people tend to be a bit more wary around smoke. And just because it's a fairly squashy ship, trying to rush somebody to use the decent number of torpedoes is a bit of a tricky proposition. So talking of smoke, I thought I would have a go at using it here. Unfortunately, that Hawkins is going to turn out to be too close, and you'd think that given the nature of the thing you'd have slightly better smoke firing but penalties than you do, but sadly no, you do not. Hawkins, of course, these days is the other tier 5 British cruiser. It's not especially great either. Well, actually no, there's Exeter as well, but yeah, Hawkins is not especially great either, but the AP shells can do nasty things to other light cruisers at this tier if you manage to get a decent angle. Certainly far more so than the Emerald's guns can do in return. But for now they were focused on the Clemson. So yeah, fortunately they didn't shoot at me that much, although somebody's having a pop at me. I haven't taken any major hits for the time being though. This, as with all other light cruisers, generally speaking at this tier, I mean, they don't have great ranges. Some of them do, but yeah, you are heavily reliant on getting lucky with people shooting and missing at you, or else sticking close enough to allies that hopefully they'll focus on your allies instead. You have to be quite mercenary sometimes. And, you know, if you're near a low-health ally, maybe they'll shoot at that low-health ally, or, for instance, a battleship that's trying to charge closer or whatever. But in this case, yeah, no, there are some things targeting me, but not too many, considering the number of ships there are on this flank. This is pretty good matchmaking overall, by the way. I don't know if you noticed, top tier, tier 5, doesn't happen that often. Completely let down by the fact that there are 2 enemy carriers in play, so that's not going to be so fun to deal with, potentially. But I guess we'll see how that goes. So there we are, our first kill. Only 13k damage so far, only 14k. But you just have to rely so much on, I mean, partly your own play matters, like wiggling around and trying to not be too tempting a target, but yeah, there is an awful lot of luck involved in playing ships like the Emerald. And so yeah, I saw the writing on the wall and started running away fairly early there, but I'm still very much spotted, and now that battleship's down, I'm probably quite a tasty looking target, and it's not like I can even really have a chance of getting unspotted when there's planes buzzing around as well. This is a standard game, as you can see, and it looks like they have us on the defensive from the very start, basically. So that might be an issue. I mean, we're several ships down already. It's already not looking particularly good. But they are having to press into this sort of defensive cluster of ships. So sometimes that can work out in your favour if your allies are particularly concentrating firepower and taking down the enemy ships one by one. But given that they do have the numbers advantage, it's not such a big advantage on our side, really. I mean, this is still very much in the enemy team's favour at this point. We don't have many heavy hitters left. We've got 2 battleships left. CVs are both still in play, but otherwise, I mean, on this flank, it's basically us cruisers trying to hold things back. And actually, we just lost a CV. Okay, never mind. We do have the 2 battleships slightly to the south there, though, but they're not in a great position. They're, I think, getting fired on by everything right now. But at least, hey, that means they're not focusing so much on us squashy cruisers. Not that it would matter to me right at this moment because I'm in my smoke. Anyway, still an utterly lackluster game so far, damage-wise, though. You cannot do much to improve the capacity of your guns to do damage. You can you even take the heavy AP skill on a cruiser? I can't remember. Hang on, I'm going to check that. So, yes, that is a cruiser captain skill, and no, it does not apply to the Emerald because it's for guns of 190mm or higher, and of course these are 6-inch guns, 152mm. So yeah, there is nothing you can do to boost the power of your main battery, basically. Obviously with Adrenaline Rush you can get your rate of fire up a bit, and I think if you're using top grade gunner you can get your fire rate up a little bit there as well, although top grade gunner is kind of hard to get to. Like, you've got to be pretty close to get that to trigger in something like a squashy thing like an Emerald, because that, if I remember correctly, is reliant on your your base surface spotting radius. The Emerald, of course, does have a pretty good stealth, like most of the British light cruisers. But that, of course, doesn't really come into play in this particular match because there's 2 enemy CVs worth of planes buzzing around. At least they can't drop fighters to try and keep me spotted for longer, I suppose. So, yeah, I'm just ineffectually plinking away at the moment and feeling lucky to have this much health left. We're down to less than half of our team. The enemy team is absolutely just closing in for the kill at this point, and there is now Clemson in the cap, and so we're not even getting victory points ticking up anymore. And the only way to address that imbalance would be to kill a lot of things very, very quickly, or else somehow get to the enemy cap. But of course, those 2 enemy carriers in play, good luck with that. However, there's a bit of a stroke of luck here for me and my damage count, because this Celebes is just rushing forwards, far too eager to get stuck in, and that means I can get a bit more damage done, but I think it's other people doing the majority of the damage there. Yeah, that was not too much more. So, what to do now? Well, I could try and get in and stop this Clemson from capping, I suppose, and hope that the 2 battleships along the A line don't both completely annihilate me in the meantime. Fortunately, the carriers seem to be mostly ignoring me for now, and you can see there my AA counter ticking up a bit. The AA on this is not especially great. I mean, I don't think it is on any of the tier 5 cruisers, really, but yeah, even against tier 4 carriers, it's eventually going to rack up to a decent number of plane kills, but my word, it's going to take quite a long time to do so. Anyway, that's the T-22 down, which was actually quite a dangerous opponent. I'm not sure why they didn't just jump in the cap as well, unless they had succumbed to the no cap kill all syndrome, which does seem to be what's happening right now. They're so focused on trying to finish off the remains of our team that they're all just kind of coming in 1s and 2s and 3s. I mean, you can see there is a very high health Piotr Veliki that's further away there on the B line, and there's the closer one which is spotted. The Clemson's trying to do the sensible thing and spot. And, oh, hello, there's the enemy Hawkins again as well. And now they're firing AP at me, which might hurt. If I want to try and stop the Clemson, though, I mean, I've got my Hydra going for a little bit longer. Maybe I triggered it a bit prematurely, but I was still quite wary of the V170 at that point, not V170, T-22. And so, it would be useful to have that when trying to get the Clemson from behind the island, but anyway. So, torps away. Probably will manage to dodge his torps, but yeah, those AP shells are really doing a number on me. And you saw how much I had to... Like, the torp drop angles on this are not especially great. So, all that heavy damage meant that I can barely get much back out of my next heal. Which is, you know, another downside of this. Even though it's got the heal, it so easily takes heavy damage and citadel damage that the value of your heals very, very quickly degrades to the point where you can maybe take, you know, 1 or 2 hits and suddenly your heals really aren't going to do much at all. So I'm going to smoke up. Hopefully that will deter the enemy carriers from picking on me too much. I have at least forced the Clemson round the island. They are very, very low health. So hopefully one of my allies will take care of them. And then it'll just be the 2 Piotr Velikis and the 2 CVs. It's still quite a tall order. Both the battleships are still very full health. They can both easily one-shot me, and indeed I get very, very lucky there. I think that's just some overpens. So I'm going to try and back into my smoke. But of course now there's a CV that's been able to spot me and drop some bombs on me as well. So yeah. Anyway, I managed to get my torpedoes out at least. That was my one chance of doing any decent amount of damage, was making that particular drop. And I might even get to smoke shoot a little bit, but we're sort of running out of time on the smoke screen. So probably not. There is also one other danger right now, me being in my smoke screen, but we'll get to that. So, my allies are pretty low health. There's the Rhine trying to crawl to the corner, the allied Piotr Veliki very low health, and then it's a pair of cruisers who are also quite low health, and yeah, I've managed to do about double the amount of damage I've done compared to not that long ago, but I just don't have the health to sustain the hits needed to get close enough to make this a guaranteed kill. I mean, it'd be glorious if I could like drive in between these 2 ships and unleash a barrage of torpedoes on either side. But yeah, I was also really hoping I'd get torpedoes back in time for that Piotr Veliki, but no, that's not going to happen. So rather than chance taking the hits at very, very close range, I accelerate back and use one of the few advantages I do have in order to do that. Anyway, so there goes the De Ruyter, and someone's still targeting me. I don't know which of these ships it is. Well, actually, now they're both targeting me, which is not so fun. I'm really hamstrung right now. I've got 20 odd seconds until my smoke comes back. 1 heal left. Yeah, he's definitely looking my way. So maybe the other one I can go for. Might even be able to drop some torpedoes, perhaps. I'm unspotted, but it's not going to last for long because hey ho, there's still a pair of carriers in play. Yeah. Now somehow our Piotr Veliki isn't actually dead yet. I'm using this brief distraction to get more torpedoes off. But they're not super fast torpedoes, they don't reload particularly quickly, so most of those will miss because he's immediately turned because I've popped out. So although their guns aren't pointing my way, they've at least taken notice of the fact that I'm here. Oh well, even 1 hit might help. This other Piotr Veliki is now at least very, very low health. Our own has unfortunately died, and they're now just trying to pick on the Murmansk or possibly the CV, which has to be definitely spotted at this stage. So maybe I can help take out this low health Piotr Veliki. Oh, there we go, there's a torpedo hit, so it's not nothing, I suppose. So, yeah, just keep plugging away and hope I manage to hit the superstructure. because if I don't, nothing happens. You get full salvos where even the shells that do miss do absolutely nothing, and they just bounce and ricochet because they are rubbish. If you had the same shells that you get on the Leander, it would be a bit better, but yeah. So, you know how I mentioned earlier that there was that danger of sitting in smoke that I hadn't yet touched on? That was it! I forgot that, oh yeah, CVs can still blind drop a smoke. So, I could have had the hydro going and had a little bit more notice and maybe only taken one of those torpedoes, but instead I took both. And even though I do technically still have a heal, yeah, it's worth a couple of 100 hit points at most. It's really not going to do me a lot of good. Somehow, though, these battleships have both been taken care of. I'm not quite sure how. Some outrageous poor accuracy on their part. Maybe the Murmansk had some really, really good fire RNG. Who knows? Still 2 CVs to deal with, though. And although we are now 2 versus 2, because that Clemson was able to block the cap, they are ahead on points. Even if nothing else changes right now, they get to win. So, there is nothing else to do except try and maybe, in the last 2 minutes, get their CVs. And I can see that one of their CVs had moved up there. I don't know where the other Langley is, but at least it gives me a chance to maybe get one of them. I don't think that will be enough points, though. And if the Murmansk... like if we're super lucky and the other one's just around the corner from the Murmansk, maybe this is doable, but yeah, I don't have a good feeling about this. I really, really don't. So, just take a smidgen of damage there. Not quite enough to kill me, but yeah, somehow I don't think I'm going to live too much longer, but not with this amount of hit points. And even if I had Hydro going, I think I still would have been boned. So yeah, there we go. Langley's rocket planes are able to take me out. But I do get my torpedoes away at least, which will get me, hopefully, vengeance against that Langley, because the Langley is really very slow. Sadly, though, we did not get lucky with the positioning of that remaining carrier, and so although it came down to a 1 versus 1, and the Murmansk had maybe enough health and certainly has enough maneuverability to actually survive a surviving carrier's drops, or the surviving carrier's drops, there just isn't the time to hunt them down. And so, sadly, the enemy team will get to win on points. So that was, in the end, a slightly frustrating game, but at the same time, kind of an entertaining one, I thought. I mean, that's a nice collection of medals and a nice damage result for an emerald. And I actually managed to score almost as well as the top scoring player on the winning team. So yeah, I feel like if this had been a single CV game, we might actually have had a chance to prevail. The fact that I was shooting down a bunch of planes and doing a lot of AA damage might actually have mattered, but as it was, because it was spread out over 2 carriers, it absolutely didn't, and they could still comfortably field full attack squads at the end of it. So, oh well. I did think it was worth showing off on the channel, though. I mean, it's not often you get to see an emerald having that kind of performance. And it's an odd, quirky little ship. It's not great. It could certainly stand to be a bit buffed, but it almost feels better when you can pull that kind of close performance out of a ship that isn't actually very good. You know, it's like, okay, well, I clearly was doing something right here if I managed to get this dog of a ship to actually perform in some way. So, yeah. And also, you just don't get to see Emerald replays that often, so that was another reason. Anyway, so that is it for this replay. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, you can do all the usual things down underneath the video, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.